Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. I always love getting your suggestions for topics, and this week's is a really interesting one. We're going to be talking about Bartholin cysts and abscesses, and also looking into a product called Balance Complex. So our mission today really is to delve into these conditions, understand what they are, how they develop, and really explore the crucial role of vaginal health, especially in relation to this Balance Complex product.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting because these issues, they're actually quite common, but they're not often talked about very openly. And I know a lot of people experience a lot of discomfort and even worry when it comes to Bartholin cysts and abscesses. So I think it's great that we're going to kind of break this down and give people some really practical information about, what they are and what can be done.
All right, so let's start with the basics then. What exactly are Bartholin cysts and abscesses? I know we're talking about the Bartholin glands here, so maybe just a quick reminder. What are these glands? What's their normal function? And then what goes wrong to cause these issues?
Yeah. Okay, so the Bartholin glands are these two tiny little glands. They sit on either side of the vaginal opening. And their job really is to produce fluid that helps to lubricate the vagina, especially during sexual activity. So you can think of them as these little natural moisture factories. Now, a Bartholin cyst develops when the duct that's supposed to let that fluid out gets blocked. So the fluid builds up and creates this fluid-filled sac, which is the cyst.
So it's kind of like a plumbing problem. You have a little blockage in the pipes and things start to back up.
Exactly. It's a great analogy. And what's interesting is that at first these cysts are often totally painless. A person might not even know they have one. But they can grow over time. And as they grow, that's when they can start to cause some discomfort just because of their size and the pressure they put on the surrounding tissues. Now things get a little bit more serious when that cyst becomes infected. And that's when we're talking about a Bartholin's abscess.
Oh, yeah, that infection. That's where the real trouble starts. But what kind of bacteria are we usually talking about with these infections?
Yeah, the infection really turns what might have been a minor annoyance into something quite painful. The usual culprits are some of those common bacteria that we hear about a lot. Things like E. coli and Staphylococcus aureus. And it's interesting because the research you sent me also pointed out that bacteria associated with sexually transmitted infections like gonorrhea or chlamydia can also be involved. And when that infection takes hold, you get those classic signs of an abscess. You'll see swelling redness, and the pain can be pretty intense.
Yeah, and I mean, that pain is not just a little bit of tenderness. It can really be debilitating, right? I mean, what I was reading suggested it can really interfere with walking, sitting, even having sex.
Absolutely. It can make everyday activities really uncomfortable. And the swelling and redness are usually pretty obvious, right near the vaginal opening. And then in more severe cases, you might even see some more general symptoms like fever or chills, which means the infection is starting to spread a little bit more throughout the body.
So just to recap, we've got the cyst, which is this blocked, fluid-filled sac, often painless initially, and then if it gets infected, it turns into an abscess. And now we're talking pain, swelling, redness, and potentially even fever. This really highlights how important it is to understand what might make someone more prone to these infections in the first place. And that brings us to vaginal health. How does that all tie in together?
This is where it gets really fascinating because, while the cyst or the abscess itself is happening in that specific gland, the overall health of the entire vaginal area is really important, both for preventing these problems and for helping the body recover if they do happen. And a big part of that is understanding what's called the vaginal microbiome. Think of it like an ecosystem.
An ecosystem.
Yeah.
So what does that mean in this context?
Yeah, so it's basically a community of different microorganisms. And in a healthy vagina, that community is dominated by what are called lactobacillus species. These are the good guys, the beneficial bacteria. And they do some really important things. One of the biggest ones is maintaining the pH of the vagina, keeping it nice and acidic, usually somewhere between 3.8 and 4.5. And that acidity is actually a natural defense mechanism. It makes it much harder for the bad bacteria, the harmful kind, to grow and thrive.
So these lactobacillus are like the gatekeepers, keeping those unwanted microbes out by making the environment unwelcoming to them.
Exactly. But they do more than just create that acidic environment. They actually produce antimicrobial compounds. These are natural substances that can directly inhibit the growth of those other microorganisms, the ones we don't want hanging around. And on top of that, they even help to strengthen the local immune responses in the vaginal tissues. So they're really helping the body's own defenses to fight off those pathogens.
That's amazing. So what happens when that delicate balance gets disrupted?
Well, that's called dysbiosis. And it's when things can start to go wrong. There are a lot of things that can cause this imbalance, like taking antibiotics, which, they can wipe out both the good and the bad bacteria. Hormonal changes can also play a role. And even certain hygiene practices can throw things off. And when the population of those lactobacillus declines and the pH of the vagina becomes less acidic, it creates an opportunity for those harmful bacteria to really take hold.
Okay.
And that increased presence of those less beneficial bacteria can increase the risk of all sorts of infections, including those that can lead to a Bartholin's abscess.
I was reading that chronic infections in the vaginal area can also be a factor here, right?
Absolutely. So if someone has recurrent infections like bacterial vaginosis, BV yeast infections or urinary tract infections, UTIs, these things can really weaken the natural defenses of the vaginal tissues. And the ongoing inflammation that you get with these infections can interfere with how well the Bartholin glands drain, which can make them more susceptible to blockages. And then on top of that, tissues that have been through these repeated infections might be more vulnerable to colonization by those harmful bacteria. And any infection that does occur might take longer to clear up.
So it's kind of like this domino effect.
Yeah.
One imbalance or recurring infection can make the whole system more vulnerable.
That's a great way to put it. And it's also important to remember that even the treatments for a Bartholin cyst or abscess can have an impact, things like drainage procedures, antibiotics, even surgery. While they're necessary to address the immediate problem, they can also disrupt that vaginal microbiome. And that can sometimes increase the risk of future infections or even recurrence. So it really underscores how important it is to support vaginal health during and after any of those treatments.
This is all making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So knowing all of this, what are some things that someone can do proactively to support their vaginal health and ultimately the health of their Bartholin glands?
Well, there are a few key strategies. First and foremost is focusing on supporting that vaginal microbiome that we were talking about. And one of the best ways to do that is by introducing lactobacillus probiotics. You can take these orally or use vaginal probiotics. And the idea is to help restore that healthy balance of bacteria, maintain that acidic pH, and give the local immune system a boost.
Probiotics, yeah, that makes sense given what we were just talking about with the microbiome. What other things might be helpful?
Another big one is managing any chronic vaginal infections promptly and effectively. So BV yeast infections, UTIs. By getting on top of those issues quickly, you can really help to reduce inflammation in the vaginal area. And that in turn helps to protect those Bartholin glands from getting involved. Good hygiene practices are also important things like wearing breathable cotton underwear and avoiding harsh soaps, douches, and any kind of scented products that can irritate that delicate vaginal environment.
So simple lifestyle choices can actually make a difference. What about overall immune health? Does that play a role?
Absolutely. A strong immune system is going to help you fight off any infection more effectively and heal more quickly. And there are lots of things you can do to support your immune system. Eating a healthy diet, managing stress through things like yoga or meditation. And some people find immune-supporting supplements helpful. Some of the ingredients that are often mentioned are reishi mushroom and arabinogalactin. They've been studied for their immune-enhancing properties.
Interesting. And what about ways to specifically target inflammation in the vaginal area?
There are some ingredients that can be really soothing and helpful. Aloe vera, for example, is known for its anti-inflammatory properties. And caprylic acid can also help to reduce inflammation, especially if there's any yeast overgrowth going on. And then finally, for preventing those recurrent infections that we were talking about, supplements like cranberry and D-mannose can be really helpful. They can actually help to prevent those harmful bacteria from sticking to the walls of the vagina and the urinary tract.
So it's really about taking a holistic approach, supporting those beneficial bacteria managing infections, practicing good hygiene, boosting your immune system, and addressing inflammation. Now, earlier we mentioned a specific product called Balance Complex, and you were curious about this. So where does this product fit into this bigger picture of vaginal health?
Well, Balance Complex, from what I've seen, is a vaginal probiotic. And it's formulated to target all of those key aspects of vaginal health that we've been talking about. So it's designed to restore that microbial balance, reduce inflammation, and really strengthen those natural immune defenses. It's been around for over 10 years. And from what I've read, it seems to be a popular choice for women who are looking to proactively support their vaginal health.
And it's not just probiotics, right? There are other ingredients in there too.
Yeah. Right. It seems to be a pretty comprehensive formula. So it does have a really significant amount of probiotics, usually measured in something called CFUs. And it includes a number of different lactobacillus strains that have all been shown to have beneficial effects on vaginal health. For example, Lactobacillus acidophilus, that's one that helps to maintain that acidic pH. Lactobacillus rhamnosus has been studied for its ability to boost immunity and reduce inflammation. And then you've got Lactobacillus reuteri, which might help with tissue healing and further balance that microbiome. And then Lactobacillus plantarum, that one has antioxidant properties and supports tissue resilience. They even include Bacillus coagulans, which helps to kind of stabilize the whole microbial environment.
Wow, that's a lot of different probiotic strains.
Hmm.
What about those other ingredients that we talked about? Like the ones that can help with UTIs and inflammation?
Yeah, so Balance Complex also includes cranberry and D-mannose, and
Mhm.
those are often used together to prevent bacteria from sticking to the lining of both the vagina and the urinary tract. So that can help to reduce the risk of those UTIs that can sometimes be linked to vaginal health imbalances. It also has oregano leaf extract, which is a natural antimicrobial, and caprylic acid, which can help to keep yeast overgrowth in check.
It really sounds like they've tried to cover all the bases. What else is in there?
Well, they've also included some enzymes called protease and cellulase. And these enzymes can actually help to break down bacterial biofilms, those kind of protective shields that bacteria can form around themselves. Breaking those down can make the probiotics more effective. And then they've added aloe vera leaf for its soothing and anti-inflammatory properties, arabinogalactan to support the immune system and aid in recovery, anise seed, which has both antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory benefits, black walnut hulls and wormwood, which have traditionally been used for their antifungal and antibacterial properties and to promote a healthy balance of vaginal flora. And then finally, reishi mushroom, which is well known for its ability to reduce chronic inflammation and enhance immune function.
That's an impressive list of ingredients, each one chosen to support different aspects of vaginal health. So for someone who's dealing with or trying to prevent Bartholin cysts and abscesses, how could Balance Complex help?
Well, it seems to target a few key factors. First, by replenishing those beneficial lactobacillus bacteria, it can help to restore a healthy microbial balance and maintain that acidic pH, which we talked about, which can help to prevent infection. The anti-inflammatory ingredients like aloe vera and reishi mushroom can help to soothe any irritation and promote healing. And the antimicrobial properties from things like oregano leaf extract, black walnut hulls, wormwood can help to prevent the overgrowth of those harmful bacteria. And then you've got the immune boosting components like arabinogalactan and reishi mushroom that can really help to strengthen the body's own natural defenses. And overall, by reducing inflammation and supporting tissue repair, it can help to create a healthier environment in the vaginal area and in those Bartholin glands.
So it really is formulated to provide that comprehensive support for maintaining a healthy vaginal environment, which, as we've discussed, is so important for both preventing and recovering from these Bartholin's cysts and abscesses.
Exactly. Being proactive about your vaginal health is so crucial. By taking steps to keep that microbiome balanced, manage inflammation, and support your immune system, you're giving your body the best chance to prevent these issues and recover more quickly if they do happen. And Balance Complex seems like it could be a really useful tool to help women do just that. Restore that balance, enhance their comfort, and promote healing.
It's all about taking charge of your own health. Now, for our listeners out there who are interested in maybe exploring their own vaginal health a little bit further, I came across something called vaginalquiz.com. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I have. It's vaginalquiz.com.
Yeah.
And it's basically this quick little quiz. It's designed to give you a personalized analysis of your vaginal health in just a couple of minutes. And it's supposed to be based on scientific information. The idea is to help you understand if there are any potential imbalances and give you some expert-backed suggestions that are tailored to your individual needs and any symptoms you might be having. It's free and it's private, so it could be a good place to start.
So if you're dealing with recurring issues or you just want to be more proactive about your health, this quiz could be a good first step to kind of figure out what might be going on.
Exactly. It's kind of like getting a snapshot of your vaginal health profile and seeing if there are any underlying imbalances that you might want to address. And based on your answers, it might even suggest some specific supplements or lifestyle changes that could help you get things back in balance.
It sounds like a really convenient way to get some information and maybe even start a conversation with your doctor. Speaking of which, what's the main takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the biggest message is that maintaining good vaginal health is so important. It's not just about comfort, it's also about preventing and managing conditions like Bartholin's, cysts, and abscesses. And while products like Balance Complex can be a helpful part of restoring balance and promoting healing, it's always essential to talk to your doctor to get personalized advice and make sure you're getting the right care for your individual situation.
That's really important advice. So understanding your own body and taking care of your vaginal health can really make a difference in your overall well-being.
Absolutely. When you feel connected to your body and empowered to take care of it, it can have such a positive impact on your life. So, as you're listening to this, think about how well you understand your own body and what small steps you can take consistently to really support your optimal health.
It's something for all of us to think about. All right, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.